Hi everyone, welcome to the Stay Hungry podcast. It's an Ahead of the Game episode with Joel and Andy. Let's go! Andy, how you doing?
Good, thank you. For Thursday?
For Thursday? Why? What's wrong with Thursday?
I like Thursdays.
Oh, right. Why?
Don't know, really. A lot of people seem to enjoy sort of what they call Wednesday hump day.
Enjoy it or hate it? I thought that was like the worst day of the week.
Well, I enjoy the beginning of the week. Most people hate it.
I love a Monday. Yeah. I'm ready to be in the office Monday.
Ready to go for it Monday. Maybe just spent, Sunday with my in-law and my mum. I don't know, maybe that's it.
She'll listen to this.
Mother-in-law won't. Actually, I think podcast is probably the one channel which my mother-in-law doesn't stalk me on.
You're safe on the podcast?
I think at the moment.
Even though they're going out on the other channels?
Could be. My mum, she's been asking me about Instagram a lot.
Okay.
And that's worrying, because obviously that gives her then like sort of Facebook, our Facebook page, Messenger, WhatsApp, and now possibly Instagram coming.
Right.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about mother. What are we here to talk about today?
Well, we started on our stories last week.
Okay, yeah.
Talking about where we've come from, what our motivation is, and also kind of how that's formed our business mindset, I'd say.
Okay.
And we only got as far as kind of university. So we're back at it.
Cool. Yeah, lots happened since university. Long time ago. And it's something we don't bang on about enough, really. We've got a real sort of, not anti-British thing, but we keep telling our guys here we need to be less British. Because obviously no one likes anyone to go and brag about stuff like, oh, look at my third Lamborghini, all that kind of crap. But then if you have worked hard and ethically for something and you've got a new car and that makes you happy, yes, absolutely celebrate it. And one of the things that we don't perhaps push enough here is the fact that we're seasoned. That's the polite term. We're seasoned marketers. We have got a lot of experience.
Yeah. What is like an aged wine called?
Vintage?
Yeah, you're vintage. I'm seasoned.
Seasoned.
Yeah.
See, I was going to say something else then. There's another better than old. See, a veteran. Marketing veteran?
Yeah,
or has that got negative connotations now?
I don't think so. I think people are pretty... If you're a vet, you're pretty respected, aren't you?
You've done your time. So university, I mean, 96 I graduated. So been doing this a long time. And it's important that clients and potential clients know that we've been doing this a long time, because that's going to be more experience that we can then use to benefit them.
Yeah.
Because obviously everyone has to start at the beginning, so not having to go about anyone who's starting up as a marketing company. We've all been there. But if someone is making a decision on which marketing company or marketing person to use, they might value that seasoned approach rather than someone who perhaps has got, maybe younger, fresher enthusiasm than me, say, even though I can be enthusiastic on days, but they just doesn't have the decades that have been there in the trenches of business.
What you're saying is you've forgotten more than what most people know.
Yeah, I've forgotten a lot. I have to write everything down now. Although that's something else we keep telling the team. Write stuff down. Don't like what's your first thought, Joel, when you and Hannah go out for a nice meal, go to a nice restaurant, the waiter or waitress comes along and they don't write the order down? Do you worry, or are you like, hey, they just have
You've hit a raw nerve here.
Well, go on.
I went out for a meal last night.
Oh, where'd you go? You can't say now.
Well, yeah, I can't say.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I went to a pub that I like, very close to here.
Oh no, really?
And they gave us the menus. Obviously, it's a one-way system in the pub at the moment. You order at the table. They, in terms of COVID safe, they nailed it all. Gave us the menus, but then they took 45 minutes to come and take our order.
Did you have a?
We had drinks.
Right,
We had drinks, but they took 45 minutes to come take our food order, and it wasn't like you can't go and get them because you're kind of restricted to your space. And
I remember when I first went to India, I was 12, and I was amazed in restaurants where literally I'd just never seen such a rudeness.
Yeah,
don't get it wrong, it worked. You didn't have to wait for your food, but literally everyone just going like that. Can you imagine if you did that in an English restaurant?
Yeah, all hell break loose.
There'd be snowflakes crying everywhere. Can I not say that? Okay,
no.
Right.
So, yeah, basically 45 minutes to take our food order, and when they came to take it, all 4 of the dishes that we wanted, so myself, my wife and 2 friends, weren't available.
Was the restaurant packed then?
It was busy, yeah. It was busy.
Probably because they'd all had their food in the 45 minutes.
Well, when you give someone the menu, you say, oh, by the way, we're out of this one, we're out of this one. But they didn't. So we all chose, And then, oh, you'll have to come back then. So, wait another 15 minutes. They came back, ordered our food.
No, so sorry, hang on. So when she came over, or he, after he or she?
It was a she.
Right, okay.
It was
so
a she.
Just to say, be saying he or she every time. So she came over. What you wanted wasn't available. So she went off again.
No, we told her to because we.
Oh, you need to choose
Need
again.
to choose again.
Okay. What'd you go for?
I
Second
had
time?
pork schnitzel.
Is that the flattened
Yeah,
breadcrumb
flatted
stuff?
breaded schnitzel with like mushroom sauce.
Chips.
No, it came with like dauphinoise potatoes.
Oh, so if it's the place that I'm thinking of, was it where we had those truffle fries or whatever?
Yeah, they don't do those anymore.
Oh,
Can you believe that?
God, wasn't that just like the best thing on any menu ever?
Anyway, the food took an hour to come, so
Now I know what you're like when you get angry or hungry.
hangry. Yeah.
So what time was this then? Now.
Well, I didn't get home till 11.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
And am I being unfair to say, was the COVID card played incessantly? That's why.
They said, oh, we didn't realise we were going to be so busy. And I said, well, it's the launch of the Eat Out to Help Out scheme this week. The whole point is you rammed.
And shouldn't you always expect to be busy or plan for...
Yeah.
Oh, thank God, only 3 people in tonight. Brilliant, we can be on time now. Wow.
Well, one of the guests I was with is an expert in the restaurant industry, so you can imagine how he...
So obviously with my maths being so bad, what was the time difference between you sitting down and starting to eat?
Sat down at 8:15, started eating at 10:45.
Do you know I went to bed at 9:15?
Yeah, I'm not surprised you get up about 5 a.m. every day. So, anyway, we digress. Yeah, write shit down.
So did she write stuff
She
down?
did write the stuff down, but it was wasted. It was wasted. So you just got me on a sore point.
I thought you were going to say that even worse, she took your second order mentally and then brought you the wrong stuff.
Oh no, fortunately not. Although you're obviously not allowed to touch each other's glasses and stuff, and they're meant to leave the tray on the table and then you take your own drinks. I had a lager and lime, and the chap I was with had a lager. And when she got to the table, she forgot which one was which. She was like, "Well, the one with lime will be the one that tastes limier." It was funny, but annoying.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway.
How do we get onto this?
There's something about not writing things down. Something that did cross my mind, which ages me, but also is an important thing.
Talk about my memory, that's what it was. And
Yeah.
I had to write things down. There we go.
Yeah.
There's the link.
So something that does age me, but is really important skill in our industry and in our business, is when we're doing digital advertising, so be that Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Google ads, and writing the copy for that. I learned to write copy for ads, for printed ads, where a piece of real estate was a physical space in the Yellow Pages or a glossy magazine or a billboard. And so because I've got that mentality of, right, I've got 3 things here, a title, like a headline, body copy, subheading or something, I always approach it with that mentality. And it dawned on me that people coming into the industry now will never go through that because they don't. There will be people who don't know what a headline is because they will have never ever physically seen a newspaper or picked up we used to get the ad mag locally here, didn't we?
Do you still make that?
I don't know, but yeah, that
very thin.
That was where I was like, oh yeah, my experience is coming into play now. I can start to apply things. And then another time we were talking about leading and kerning on font, and I explained to our most junior member of staff, well, that's because of literally the lead spacing between the letters on a letterpress print. She's like, oh right, really? What's that? Oh, okay.
It is a very strange feeling where you sort of feel yourself getting older, sort of turning into maybe sort of older members of your family, and even sometimes saying the same stuff. And whenever I look at some of the marketing stuff and think, right, are things changing for the better, then it's like, well, whether they are or not, it's almost irrelevant.
They're changing.
It is what it is. And there are some things I talk about in marketing where I know some of the guys look at me blankly because, like say press, if I start talking about like press ads and stuff, do they read newspapers? Have they ever really read newspapers? Well, no, they probably consume their news online. Like, even I think back to when I started ITV, like Channel 5, I think was just about to launch. That's like the Spice Girls launched, I remember that. Sky TV or satellite TV was so minor. Google was just some funny thing you used to look up stuff.
Yeah.
And how much has changed in that time. But I think, I suppose this kind of podcast is to talk about more about the mindset of marketing and business. Unless you have that mindset to carry on learning, there's no good saying, "Oh, I've always done it this way. I don't care." Like my dad in his doctor's surgery, he was probably the last doctor's surgery in the whole bloody country to take on computers. Everything was handwritten and kept in patient folders. I mean, God knows what would happen if there was a fire or something. And I've always remember that about my dad, and sort of, I learned from what he did well, and I've also learned from his mistakes, and no doubt I'll go on to make a ton of other mistakes. But it is things are what they are, and you can either choose to accept it and deal with them and see which you can use to your client's benefit, or carry on, do what I've always done, and you'll just get eaten up, man. In this game,
hugely. Obviously, I scoffed a minute ago when you mentioned snowflakes, and that's because obviously we are on social media all the time, and there are people on social media that we know that get offended for a hobby.
Who coined that term?
I don't. Well, that's what upsets me about it is I think that there's a lot more people now of all generations who are more in touch with their feelings or more open about what's going on with their mindset, their feelings and stuff, and they're getting brushed with the same stroke as people who are literally looking for things on Twitter to be upset about, and that's a very different behaviour to people who are in touch with their feelings.
So I'm trying to think about a comedian he was talking about in the Week magazine, and he's saying he was talking about clicktivists, and it's sort of basically he said younger people, his words not mine, younger people who'd like to change the world but basically can't be asked, and they just rather I'm offended or press a button. I'll tweet about that, but won't actually go and protest or march or anything.
But the Silver Surfers are the same now, aren't they? You've got a whole generation of older people who are moaning behind their keyboard, and that isn't the same as, say, these people who are really willing to put their head above the parapet and say, well, this is what I think, and this is why, and this is the research I've done, and this is what I'm going to do about it.
God, when I was at university, we used to protest about stuff.
Yeah.
And do, well, we didn't have a choice. There was no buttons to press. So to go and do stuff. And now I think, I can see where it comes from, but then I need to be careful what I say as well, because people get very easily offended, and that's just, I guess that's an age. And again, I know about some of your childhood, you know about some of mine, and just stuff that used to be not accepted, but widely accepted, and almost it's part of life. You have to get on with it. I mean, some of the abuse I've faced, just well,
that's why we're doing this podcast today, isn't it? Is telling our stories, where our mindsets come from, and also it frames why we're passionate about what we do, and why when we say sarcastic remarks about things, there's actually quite a bit more depth to the comment than.
So do you think it toughened us up? Do you think that's a good thing? Because now I've got to be honest, I'm so thick-skinned. If just not the stuff bounces, there is some stuff that does cut me a little bit, but generally speaking, not that much phases me. Whereas, of course, we know really, really lovely business owners who, as soon as they get one negative review or one negative comment, their world falls apart.
I think you'd describe me as sensitive.
Yeah, but if someone commented on one of your social media, yeah, absolutely I would. But if someone commented on one of your social media posts saying, "Oh, that's a bloody stupid thing to say, Joel," you'd either just ban them, block them, probably get angry, but it wouldn't ruin your life or make you any less inclined to do that kind of post again, unless you had written something
that's a very recent development, though. I'd say within the last 12 months, I've been confident enough to. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm way more confident with other people's brands than I am with my own personal brand.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still stew. We had not difficult situation, mine in the grand scheme of things, but someone be a bit untoward, an ex-client, and yeah, I'd say probably over a year ago, you both would have just shouted, sworn, called them every name under the sun, not to their face, we're too polite for that, and probably bitten back. And then
achieve nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Spent the next 48 hours toing and froing. You're not going to change anyone's mind. It's like when people bang on about bloody politics online. It's like, oh, you said this about the Labour Party. Oh, you know, you're right. I'm going to stop voting Tory, or vice versa. And it's like, oh my God.
My favourite, because I can get deep into politics, but my favourite people in terms of how they approach politics is they know a lot more about it than me, and then they make a rational judgment based on their rounded view of what's going on. Where I was raised, particularly on my mum's side, they're just Labour voters. My whole life, Labour voters, because that was the right thing to do, according to them. And you know, I voted Lib Dem, I voted Green. I'm kind of like the odd one out.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. My dad, I can't think what the Tory government would have had to do to have got my dad to stop voting Tory, and my mum's Labour. And again, I don't know what they could have done to stop her voting Labour. And if you're going to vote for one party all the time, and no matter what happens or what parties change, what people in those parties change, you will always vote that party, and you won't even entertain anyone else who's got political differences from another party. I'm just not really that interested.
Yeah, I can't engage with that. I can't. You're not happy to adapt, and obviously what we're talking about here is you've got to be able to change and embrace technology and embrace change and look at, you know, the world's not mine.
You're quite forward thinking, really.
Well, you know, I'm 33, which isn't particularly old, but the world isn't mine.
You're not.
The world isn't mine. There's a whole generation behind me that the world belongs to now. I kind of had my go at it, and now I'm just settled in what I'm doing.
So do you think there just simply will always be people who aren't flexible, who aren't, I don't know, willing to learn? We talked about that earlier. And no matter what you do, you're not going to change your mind. So why waste your time trying to convince them otherwise? Like, say, for example, I suppose in business, we get people who are like ready to buy, and they're like, brilliant, I totally get what you're doing. The time's right.
Let's go.
I've got money in the bank. Let's go. Or you got other people who
want convincing.
And you're almost like, they're like, convince me why I should go with you, Joel. It's like,
I'm going through this at the moment, with a prospect, and it's fair enough because it's a big leap for them. But we offer marketing. If I had a magic wand, my job would be way easier. If every business that approaches, I say, I can guarantee we can sell you more of your widgets, I'd be the richest man in the world. But no, I can apply my expertise, your expertise, our team's expertise to the best of our ability, and I'm only going to work with you if I think there's a good chance it's going to work. That's as fair as I can be. And I think maybe Instagram does it to people, Facebook, where they think that there's this kind of there's a stage that you get to where you can just chuck money at something and it guarantees you success, and
no,
that's not how the world works.
No, absolutely. Even I mean, there are things like products that can have guarantees, or if you buy something, it's going to do a certain job. But there are so many other, we're service based, so many other products out there that you think they're going to do something, but they don't. A mobile phone, can you guarantee me I'll get a signal on this network everywhere? Well, no, of course you can't. Can you guarantee that this new car isn't going to break down or have any troubles? No, of course I can't.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the service-based industry. I remember one time, and it only happened once, and I'll tell you why, because it fucking bit me. I was having a battle with a potential client, and in the end, I did acquiesce to his demand and said, okay, I will work for you on a commission basis. You're interested in sales. I'm a marketer, I'm not a salesperson, but I will work with you on a commission basis. Guess what happened? I sold shitloads of his products, and he wanted to renegotiate. I was like, right, and I will never do it again. So everyone thinks, we can't guarantee anything marketing. What if we just work on a literally paper piecework? Like, if you do sell something for me, I will give you a certain percentage. Doesn't work because I've been there and done it.
And behind closed doors, we've had that chat, haven't we? What if you could be a marketing agency that only works based on results? And the reality is, you don't get the plaudits then. You don't get the credit for, the product must have been so good, it must have been easy to sell. Okay, right, okay. So if I do a good job, it was your product. And if I do a bad job, it was your marketing.
Yeah.
And that's fine, that's the nature of the beast. But commission-based. I mean, even commission-based sales is rough.
Yeah, being there literally. I remember going for a job. I didn't accept it. No salary, purely commission. That's how bad things were at that point. Hi there, it's Andy at Codebreak. Thanks for listening to the Stay Hungry podcast. It's business owners like you that keep the wheels of the world turning. Did you know that Codebreak offers a marketing consultancy service? Visit codebreak.co.uk today and book your discovery call with me or Joel, and let's skyrocket your business together. We can't wait to hear about your goals. I don't like that when we record that.
Oh, I'm into that one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I just sound overly chirpy.
Oh, it's good. Sometimes when you're really grumpy, I just come in here and listen to that ad. This is the Andy I like. Ad number 2 on my board.
Oh, I'm turning to my dad. No, I do sound. I really sound like my brother on that, actually.
No.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe that's what you sound like.
Oh, that is bad, isn't it? I mean, so it's hard getting people to record a voice, then trying to get them to be photographed, trying to get them to be videoed,
and hear it and see it back.
That's difficult. That's definitely a mindset thing. You know, it's. We talked about shots being fired. You know, if you're going to get offended or hurt when you get criticised or someone has a different opinion to you, but you've got to accept that if you get your marketing right, you are going to be more visible. You are going to come under fire. And we talked about that a few times, haven't we? But it's so important because we know there are businesses not too far from here who are doing great things, but still not doing as many great things as they could be because of fear of what people might say if they're too loud. I
had a conversation this morning. Oh, you're very loud. I see you everywhere. And they meant it as a criticism. I was like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that someone just brand new to business?
Well, no, but their argument was basically what they were saying is you're quite a measured person. Why is your marketing so loud? I'm like, well, wow. I am measured, but I'm confident in my opinion.
I'm going to ring up Ronald McDonald now and tell them to pull back on their advertising because I see them everywhere. McDonald's, KFC, see them everywhere as well, and BMW. God,
they're cocky though, aren't they?
Yeah, they got to have that slight bit.
Pay extra for indicators. Every time, every podcast,
and it's not even true
or funny.
My uncle said that to me once when I got my first Beamer. He said about the indicators not working, and it's like, oh, fuck off. I do admire my uncle though because he's got real principles about fighting the man, and he's one of the people that will moan about McDonald's and moan about Amazon, but actually not to use their services. He is, as far as I know, he has never used Amazon and he has never eaten McDonald's. So hats off to you.
Never eaten McDonald's.
Rather than moaning about the evils of Amazon or the evils of Starbucks and tax and all this, and then walk in with like a venti double latte.
Oh, is there one of those available nearby?
Oh, did somebody say there's a new drive-through?
Just opening behind us.
Oh, should we send them out?
Oh, it's not open yet.
Oh, isn't it?
No.
Oh, well, that was a shit story then. Oh, I got my hopes up then.
My story, sorry. Right, okay. 25 minutes into the pod. We've talked a lot of shit.
Right, okay.
I think we got as far as kind of like college, going to university last time.
Do you know, I've just realised I'm miles away from my microphone.
Yeah, I had to turn you up.
Oh, will it still work then if I sit like this?
Yeah, although for the sake of everyone.
You don't, yeah.
Yeah, if you just do us a favour.
I was so excited about talking. I love doing these podcasts.
You sound a lot different now. Yeah, so we got as far as kind of what it was like to grow up where we grew up, what went on, what our childhoods like, what our parents' attitudes to childhood were. I think we talked about my graduation. What happened next?
I was telling Emma about Bolton. I think it was just last night actually, because we talk about so my eldest daughter, she's only 5 years away from university, which doesn't.
She told me she wants to go to the University of Bolton.
It's like I was like, my parents, they to be honest didn't give me any advice when it came to the important thing was I went to university. If I didn't go to university, my dad literally would have keeled over. So the important thing was.
And where did you go to university?
Kiel.
Hey, see what I did there?
Very good, very good. I remember ringing my grandma in India and telling her I've gotten to university. She goes, which one?
Oxford or Cambridge?
I said Kiel. Not Oxford or Cambridge. No, Kiel. Is that near to Oxford or Cambridge? It's like, anyway, got university done, went to London, rang my grandma up again. Said, Grandma, got a place sorted. Me and Paul, moved into London. How far are you from London? No, we're in London. We're in a place called Brockley. No, how far from the palace? And it's like,
So
quite far.
So
quite
you
far
were
now.
like a smart kid, right?
No, I don't. I just worked harder. Indian. That comes
Okay.
back to what we talked about last time. Dad always said, work harder than everyone else.
So the culture you were brought up in, you think?
Yeah. I think I was naturally good at spelling, and that actually could be something to do with Indian, because the spelling bee programs do seem to feature.
Heavily in your life.
Yeah, but to be honest, my dad, the guys here know how really anal I am when it comes to spelling and grammar, but it's just something that was always drilled into me. Attention to detail, and I suppose Dad being a doctor, if there's a profession you've got to get spot on, it's that. But it is one of the things I think. Again, just sounds old now, but one of the things I think is getting missed now is that attention to details. I will see national magazines with not just the odd typo littered with typos.
Several, yeah.
And just no one seems to care. And it's like, well,
Maybe your other calling in life is an editor.
could you imagine if a client
I
called
would
up
have wanted
and
to be
said,
my editor.
could you imagine if a
You
client
pretty
called up and said, oh, there's a typo in that ad you just designed for that magazine? I'd be mortified.
Yeah, well, that's good.
I hope so. But I was smartish, I suppose. But no, I just worked hard. The book I'm reading at the moment, one of Brian Tracy's books. I suppose it was written almost 20 years ago now, so some of it's a bit dated. It talks a lot about you must work harder. You must turn up an hour before everyone else, leave an hour after. But it doesn't really talk about working smarter, which I think has developed a lot recently.
Yeah, and obviously you've got athletes now who train less but achieve more.
Because I remember Beckham, reading about Beckham, not that I know much about football, he was always the first to practice and the last to leave. Everyone else left a bit, he'd be there practicing his corner kicks, practicing his
free kicks.
his free kicks
that
and
was,
stuff.
He was very well known for that.
But now I still think there are bosses out there who like to see employees, oh, look, she's always here first, or he's always here late, oh, that's good. Whereas, no, it will
Productivity is what you need to be looking at.
and to be honest, if someone's always here really early and always here really late, I think you're just not efficient enough. You're not getting
Something's wrong, and the company culture's suffering for it. Oh, we're addressing that here to an extent. It's right. What's going on? Why is it always the same people working late? And we come to the realization that various ways people are approaching their work has strayed from what the vision of the company is, and so we're getting that back on track. And that's
And that has definitely changed. Like at ITV and probably the company afterwards. That's how you got noticed. Obviously by doing great work as well. But if you played the game and turned up a little bit earlier than the boss, or the boss was about to leave, oh, you're still here, Andy? You thought, oh yes, Tony. Just some stuff to do. I don't really want to. I want to get it done now, even though it doesn't need to be delivered for 2 days. It's little things like that, and that's just me playing the game. Whereas now, there are some younger people who won't play the game, and that's fair enough.
The game's changed, though, hasn't it? The game's changed.
For some employers, a lot of employers.
Yeah, you've got to make yourself invaluable. Anyway, we're straying. So, you ended up in London.
Near the palace.
I ended up continuing to live in Bolton.
Oh God, really? We've got to be careful now because I've been to Bolton once, and
I'll chuck this out there now. I bloody loved living in Bolton. You can ask why if you want.
Why? I thought you hated it.
So I was 15-minute train journey. I lived by the train station. 15-minute train journey from central Manchester.
Why didn't you move to Manchester?
Expensive.
Oh, okay.
Probably a 45-minute train journey from the centre of Leeds.
Never been to Leeds.
Great
Isn't it
city.
just been voted the best city to live in the UK?
Yeah, I think it's like the happiest city in the UK.
Although 3 of my niece and nephews all live there, and they've all moved back to Shropshire now.
Well, Shropshire's a magnet, isn't it?
Why do we all come back?
I don't know.
Why aren't you in Bolton anymore?
Apart from the true story is I saw someone get shot outside my flat.
Fucking hell, killed?
Yeah, by the police.
That's all right then. Oh my God.
Yeah, so
wow.
That was the day I was like, right, I'm off now. That's enough.
This sounds really bad now, but there were points in London and parts of London where I got so used to seeing those yellow boards saying someone was shot here last night or something.
Yeah.
You become desensitized. Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
You literally saw it. How far away from you?
So my flat was an old school building, and I lived on the top floor. and behind it was a big public car park. And there'd been a bit of a kerfuffle and a chase into this car park, and this guy got out and drew a gun, and the police that were chasing him put him down.
Oh God, he drew on them and they shot him.
Yeah, and it was just not nice, not a nice thing to be drawn into, and I'd had enough. So,
wow, that is that's hardcore.
But prior to that, I think obviously Bolton's a big place. I think it's the biggest town in the world or something ridiculous. It's a big place. There's some beautiful parts of Bolton. There's some really lovely historic buildings. I made loads of good friends, really enjoyed my time there. But also, much like you're describing with London, you see things that you would not be exposed to in rural Shropshire. So, nights out, when you've got 20,000 people out on a night out, it's quite different to when you've got 500 people on a night out, and a fight turns into something a bit horrible. Or when the police come, it turns into something a bit horrible, where if you have a night out in Churchstone where I grew up, maybe there's a bit of fisticuffs between two people one night, but that's it, it's over, and they probably buy each other a pint the next day. It was a very different thing. And then obviously, much like London, Bolton's got lots and lots of different cultures, which was great for me because I'd never been exposed to that before. But that comes with its frictions as well. So there was, lots of underlying things going on that I didn't understand, and just, really eye-opening, but overall a really good experience until the end.
Wow. I'd say most of the fights I got into when I was a lad in Telford were with Asians. It was people who didn't like the white half of me, rather than you might assume it'd be the other way around. It'd be like, white guys didn't like me because I was half Asian. It was like an absolute minority of Asians who didn't like me because I was part white. And that was.
So I've got no concept.
And my dad couldn't get his head around that. He just assumed I'd been fighting with like white kids, and I was like, "No, Dad, it was some Asian lads." And he was just mortified.
So if I'm entirely honest, I've got no reference point for that whatsoever. It's the white privilege or whatever you call it. How's that changed you growing up?
Like I said, it's hard without just making it sound like a positive, but that toughened me up. Because my parents are very religious and very much turn the other cheek and non-violent and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you're not very non-violent.
So, but it's you sank or swam, because you couldn't go running to the teachers, and not that our teachers are horrible. It's just like you got called Packy, man up. And that literally was the attitude. And it's like, well, what can I do about it? I can either turn the other cheek, but for whatever reason, I didn't want to. And not that I had massive racial abuse. I had a really happy childhood. It was just prevalent. So not something I encountered all the time. But it toughened me up.
Resilient.
To deal with shit.
Resilient.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if I hadn't been exposed to all that, would I have sort of as thick a skin as I do now? I don't know. Maybe not. But even let's talk about the Brian Tracy book I'm reading again now. Puts even more emphasis on the importance of a very young life. Like my degree or half my degree is in psychology, so obviously I'm very aware of how important your childhood is and how it shapes you. But at a very young age, and I can remember being very young, having to deal with racist shit. And I came out the other side of it, and of course I don't look back at it fondly, but I think that toughened me up to deal with other stuff as I grew up. And in business, there has to be, obviously some business owners take it to the extreme, don't they? They're just shit and not nice people to deal with. I still hope I'm a nice person to deal with, but I won't take crap like I used to. And to be honest, when I started on business, when literally like yourself, we had no money. It was sink or swim. Whereas it might have been different if we had like
a cushion.
A cushion, whether that's a partner working full time or whatever it might be. And so I did probably put up with a lot of stuff because I need to get the money in. And so I would deal with people maybe I didn't really like that much as long as they paid the coin. Whereas, as you know, obviously that's for both of us.
Not what we do now, yeah.
And we said over lockdown, didn't we? We would rather minicab in the evenings. Again, nothing against minicabs, not that anyone's getting minicabs. Rather minicab in the evenings as a side hustle to get money in to avoid me working with dickheads.
Yeah, and I think that's fair.
Pride, pride. Yeah, people say, was it pride comes from
Self-respect.
fall?
Yeah, self-respect. I think is.
Yeah.
And I've got issues with self-respect from the similar period. Well, I could tell a really sad story. I'm not sure I want to, but it's well, I will now because I've spoken.
No, man, I don't. All right, okay.
That's all right. Right. So, this isn't for sympathy, but this is where my resilience comes from because I can't relate to where your resilience comes from, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, 3 months before I was born, my uncle committed suicide.
Yeah.
And then I was raised in a household with a lot of mental health issues because my dad shares the same illness as my uncle. And then when I was 18 at college, my best friend committed suicide as well.
Okay.
And that day, when I found out I had to go to work, and I worked in a supermarket at the time, and the lady who was my supervisor in the supermarket knew my uncle, knew my dad, and knew what had happened with my friend. And she took me to one side and said, "What do you do to people, Joel?"
Holy shit.
And it's literally the darkest thing. You know what you're doing when you say that to an impressionable 18-year-old. And
Wow.
I've had
sorry.
I've had some very dark moments since that day. But
How old are you at this point?
18, maybe 17 or 18. So, and that day, I've obviously had moments since that I've struggled with and stuff, but that day was the day I was like, I am never going to take shit off anyone ever again.
So are you thankful to that woman?
No.
What would happen if she hadn't said that? Was that a defining moment that, right, that's actually played a part in who I am today?
It's a moment I'll never forget. It's horrible.
Would you be different if she hadn't said that?
I think I took a lot of shit before that, yeah.
Wow.
Where that happened, and I was just like, right. And I'm still like a bit of a sponge. I can soak up a lot of crap from people before I snap, but then I'm not kind of being affected by it. I'm just, we had an incident with a client like you mentioned before, and it was annoying me, and I huff and puff about it and get angry. But the reality is, I go to the gym, and that's the end of it. Or I go home and go for a bike ride. Or
it is hard not to bite. It's strange when like I want to keep my girls to a certain extent hidden from all the nastiness in the world, but at some point they're going to have to be exposed to it, and I don't want them to go off to university and be thrown into a world that they just, oh my god, totally unprepared for. So there's got to be a balance. But sometimes I remember at university, I literally had such a carefree time. Didn't do any studying, much to the chagrin of my mother. I'd go and see mum and dad for the weekend, and dad would be like, "Oh, it's good to see you, son. Here's £20 to buy some books." And I'm like, "Yeah, dad." And mum would be like, "He's not going to buy bloody books for
20 pints,
quid." And it was something. So I went to Keele. Something like Keele had the third or fourth highest suicide rate at the British universities at that time. And I remember someone telling me that, and I was just gobsmacked. I was like, oh my god, here we are in this quite an insular university, which I liked. It was small and everyone knew each other's business. And to be told that, oh my god, what, the people, this is happening when I'm here, just basically carefree, having a laugh, getting pissed with my friends.
What were the key subjects at Keele? What were people generally studying?
To be honest, back then, Keele was a sort of place you went to because no one else would take you. To be honest, it had a fantastic reputation then, but they seem to just really want the numbers in. But a lot of physios.
Yeah, I thought it was like sort of almost medical, but not quite.
Yeah. It's a big, massive medical centre now. But then a lot of arts. It was quite varied. But then I remember someone committed suicide in my block, and I came back from, I'd been out for the night, shall we say. Came back, and the cleaner ran out of this room screaming, and there he was, Kevin, just with a bag on his head.
Yeah.
And it was like, fuck. I think
it's important to stress we're not saying we're the only people that have been through these experiences. I'm very aware that everyone's got their problems, been through some pretty horrendous stuff. But it does really form your mindset as a business owner.
So what's your view? Because obviously mental health is, well, to be honest, there have been times where, in the past, a long time ago, where, to be frank, blokes
Didn't talk about
couldn't
it.
really, couldn't. They'd be scoffed at. The amount of places I used to work at where HR was just like, oh, what the hell's HR? Whereas now, obviously, people can be a lot more open about it and hopefully get more support about it. But in the business community especially, it seems to be prevalent, rife, is that the word?
Mental health issues.
Yeah, anxiety, stress issues. Yeah, seems to come across it a lot on LinkedIn especially, and it's great that people are being open about it. But it is. Do you think those are issues that the people struggled with before, or can business for the wrong people sort of exacerbate those kind of anxiety issues? Because let's face it, it can be bloody stressful.
Yeah, it's really strange. So obviously you're aware I suffer with anxiety and depression, but I'm also a bit of a control freak. So
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I'd say so, because anxiety is obviously the feeling of being out of control.
Out of control.
But when I was employed, being out of control felt even more out of my control because I had to do what the employer wanted me to do. Where now I'm a business owner.
So you didn't feel safer knowing that
the logic.
I know what I've got to do today, and I know I'm going to get paid at the end of every month. Say.
Yeah, I never logically got to that point. I do now when I'm anxious.
What can we get paid this month, Joel?
Yeah.
What can we have this month?
Oh, literally. I mean, all business owners go through it. Even in the good times, sometimes you'll look at the figures and be like, oh, we should be doing better than this.
And then what's strange, and to be honest, I'm still trying to educate myself about it now. You look and think, whoa, awesome. But then the next month, you're almost like, oh, it's not as good as last month.
Yeah.
I just want even more now. And I suppose, well, we know people who they're just never happy because they want more and more. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a multi-millionaire. Right, what next?
That goes back to our Little Victories podcast from a few weeks back, where we said you've got to remember to celebrate and almost soak up those little victories, because you might not have another one for a little while. And
so does the financial issues, does that exacerbate anxiety? Is finance a big part of it in the business community?
I'd say it's different for every individual. Okay. I mean, my anxiety, depression probably comes from self-worth, roughly.
So if, because obviously, I didn't know, wasn't very aware of mental health as a subject until obviously we started working together. Hopefully I'm a little bit more knowledgeable now. If, I don't know, someone's struggling with anxiety and they're running a business, if they won 10 new clients and right, I'm literally now 50 grand a month better off, and they signed a contract, that's deal. That wouldn't go in any way towards helping. It's just there will always be something.
I think it depends on the case.
Right.
So I know for me, like I could worry. I can worry about if the tax return is going to get done on time. I've never missed a tax return. You know me. The chances of me missing a tax return are slim to none.
I have no idea how that stuff even gets done.
Yeah, but I can. If I get into an anxious state, I could obsess on that and ruin 2 months of my life, worrying about, I think I'm not going to get this done on time. Blah blah. That is not logical in any shape or form, which I think is where normal levels of anxiety become unhealthy levels of anxiety. So someone worrying about if they're going to be able to pay the bills is quite a logical thing to worry about.
So if a big chunk of money came in, they wouldn't have to worry about their bills. Do you think that anxiety would transpose somewhere else, you mean?
No, I think there'd be some people that would just completely alleviate their worries, and their anxiety is a logical anxiety. Worrying about...
Or is that stress then, if they're worried, and then money comes in, oh, right.
Yeah, maybe that's the difference between stress and anxiety. Is stress is almost a logical level of worry, where it starts to physically impact you because, you got hypertension, high blood pressure, whatever. And then anxiety is where it starts to stray into an illogical behaviour. Right. So I know there's times when there's situations I could explain to you where I could say where my brain was, and you would think, "Fucking hell, that's ridiculous." But in my mind, that was my reality. So I think I'm the sort of person where even if I had all the wealth in the world, well, wealth's not really my goal, but if I had all the wealth in the world, I would worry about what to do with it.
Oh, I know. Well, have you read Felix Dennis's?
Yeah,
ads?
yeah.
So, we know, we talked about it recently, didn't we? We know a lot of very unhappy, I'm not saying they have to be stressed, but very unhappy, very rich people.
Yeah, yeah.
And someone's always trying to overquote them or nick their money or sue them or get what they can. And it's like, what wealth is enough? Like with my kids, when they obsess about the Codebreak brothers on YouTube or whoever it might be. Oh, he like drives a Lamborghini. Oh, he's got 2 Ferraris. Okay, what do you want now? A 3rd Ferrari?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There are days I think, it'd be nice to have a Ferrari, but I'm quite happy with my Beamer. What do I? Oh, I want a yacht now. And then someone parks up next to you with a bigger yacht. Like this program we watched recently on a documentary about Monaco. Gotta be honest, one of the saddest things I've seen.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
You could never earn enough. There's always someone round the corner who had a bigger boat.
Yeah. And I think, I've got a good handle on my mental health. I'm very, very pragmatic about it now. But I think one thing I would say, not necessarily bigging myself up, but if you've got a problem, like if a global pandemic hits, I'd say I'm the sort of person you want to be in business with, or the sort of person you want helping with your marketing, because I've been to much darker places in my mind than most people can imagine. So therefore, big problems don't faze me. I'll get the bit between my teeth and go after it. And that's a positive that's come out of a negative. That I've got a lot more fight in me than people think because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot. Let's face it. When it happened, there was some tough conversations. But it's like the question we asked ourselves, the question we asked to our clients and to the people who were still inquiring about marketing help over lockdown. The question is, are you planning on having a business to come back to? If the answer is yes, you need to do something. Nothing unless you go out and develop a vaccine in 24 hours. And hats off to you.
Nothing's going to change.
Nothing's going to change. So
on, yeah.
It's happened, and there's the past. And there's the future. The past is the past. Like, even if it is someone winding you up, you can just stew, shout a bit, get off your chest. Great, let's go for a run, go on your bike, go to the gym, and then you get on with stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking a lot about my dad. Bloody hell! If there's someone who wouldn't let go, oh my God, he'd bear a grudge. He bore grudge with some people all his life. If you cross my dad, he'd remember, and he'd remember forever.
So up until last week, this is an honest truth, I'd say you've got that personality trait.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had a moment last week where we were talking about somebody that we've both got a grudge about. And we found out that they were in hospital. And there was clear empathy from both of us that we were upset about that situation. And I just took a step back. I was like, actually, we're not bad people. We do care.
Oh yeah. Oh God, absolutely, absolutely. I don't want to have. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get mugged off either. And I think that it's business, and sometimes shit happens. If you do something, and I think it's unethical, whether it is or not, if it, unethical according to my values, I'll remember it, but then I will move on. And I certainly wouldn't wish anyone ill or ill will.
Hey there, Evie at Codebreak here. Fancy top tips, marketing insights and awesomeness delivered directly to you? Sign up for the free Stay Hungry printed newsletter at codebreak.co.uk.
Now that's much nice. I'll get Evie to re-record mine, actually.
What a legend.
Yeah, she's brilliant, isn't she? Fantastic. See, sometimes I think you can find yourselves talking about young people and not always in the best lights. But Evie's...
A shining example of...
Yeah, it's individuals, isn't it? It isn't groups of people. There can be some similarities in groups of people, but it's down to when we talked about we only want to help certain categories. No, we've moved away from that now. We want to help certain types of individuals. Yeah. And Evie, what is Evie like?
19.
I was going to say 12. No, she feels like 12, 19. And she's... And I just keep remembering when I was 19, holy shit, I was... Well, nowhere near as sensible and as hardworking as she is. She's like almost like too sensible. It's like, I remember, didn't she say in her interview, I said, oh, what do you like doing in your spare time, clubbing? No, I don't like clubbing. I'll have a drink, but I don't like clubbing. I'm like, yeah, she's pretty sensible.
Does anyone like clubbing anymore? Is that a thing?
So what we watch, we're watching The Jackal last night.
Okay.
23% on Rotten Tomatoes. Firmly disagree. It's one of Emma and I's sort of go-to films. And the opening scene is some Russian nightclub. So people walk in and there's all this bloody house music and whoop whoop going on and people shouting acid and stuff. And this music was blaring. And I looked at Emma and we both said, can't think of anything worse now than go into a club. But yeah, when we were younger, and it was sort of 80s, 90s kind of club, absolutely loved it.
Well, I think
dance stuff. No,
the coolest scene in movie history for me is the blood rave at the beginning of Blade, where he walks into the underground nightclub and then the sprinkler system sprays blood on them and he goes ballistic in the strobe lights.
Blade 3 has just gone to Netflix now. But that's shit, isn't it?
Not talking about
it's got Triple H in it though.
Yeah, and he's awful.
And the guy from Prison Break.
Yeah, Dominic Purcell, is it? Yeah.
Emma likes him.
Yeah.
She likes the other brothers, to be honest, from Prison Break.
Oh, okay. Prison Break's her jam.
Oh, Prison Break and 24, they'd be our Desert Island box sets.
Fair. So, I wonder, that scene, would it not compute now? If so, because I saw that Blade, I was like 14 or 15 when I saw that Blade, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Well, there's a couple of I don't know, nightclubs aren't reopened yet, but there are a couple of clubs in Shrewsbury, are there? Or
yeah, but is it?
Do people?
Is it the same?
They just go to bars now, do they, young people?
Oh, this lot seem to, don't they?
And,
they go to raves, I suppose.
But they wouldn't go onto a dance floor and dance with their friends. They're too cool for that.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I feel very out of touch.
They wouldn't like me moonwalking then, would they? Mind you, now I'm not drinking.
Can you moonwalk?
Really, really badly and drunkly, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, awfully. I remember I turned up to meet Emma and some of her workmates years and years ago, and yeah, tried to do a moonwalk, had rubber-soled shoes on, and sort of
just stuck there.
Made a bit of a twat of myself, really. And Emma reminds me of it every now and then, which is nice.
It's the first time I've heard that story.
Really?
I keep that one.
Oh, God, in London, I used to moonwalk all the time.
Did other people used to do it, or was it just
No,
you?
just me.
Did you spin before you moonwalked?
Should have done, shouldn't I, really? There was this
Did you wear a hat and a silver glove?
and hang around with children? No.
Oh, brilliant.
There's a nightclub, probably still is a nightclub, in Covent Garden called the Roadhouse. And I think the phrase, it was described basically in those days as a meat market. Okay. And me and my mates used to go there all the time.
To do what?
To moonwalk. And it was like, I'm thinking now, oh my God, in 5 years' time, would I want Maddie, my eldest daughter, like going to places like the Roadhouse? And you think, oh my God, to be young and foolish. So it gives me hope that there are young people like Evie who aren't foolish at all. I can't see Evie going out, getting shit-faced and moonwalking.
The day that happens is a great day.
Well, I'm not drinking now, so there's no way I'd moonwalk sober.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be shit at the Christmas party.
That's pretty shit usually. I'll just be quieter probably. No, I might have a couple of cheeky ales, but like I say, Emma hasn't touched a drop all year. So
yeah.
But we just bought some of that clean liquor gin. I still haven't tried it yet. I posted about it on Instagram.
Oh, you still haven't actually had it?
No, it's 1% or something.
Just not taking your fancy at any point yet.
We'll be on our second cup of ginger tea, and I'll turn to him and say, we've forgotten to try the gin again. And so it's been sat there over a week now, and I'm on that session IPA or whatever, that no
alcohol-free one.
Yeah. And then I have a cup of tea, and it's like, oh yeah, shit, the gin, forgot about that. But how do we get on to talking about, like, moonwalking?
Well, you'd moved to London. Apparently, you'd taken up the moonwalk. Where did you go? Where did you work? What happened next?
So my last year at university, in between the carousing, I was applying for jobs. So most of my mates were still just enjoying themselves. But I thought, I want to get a job. One, because I want to start earning money because I was so skint. And to be honest, sorry, Mum, if you're listening, I didn't want to move back home.
Yeah.
The freedom of university, I just loved it. And I loved my time there. So I was applying for jobs and went for an interview at a media recruitment firm in London. And they rang up and said, "Oh, we got an interview at Carlton TV." And so I got my suit on, really awful suit. Got the train down to London, got off at Euston. So right, okay, so I need to get a tube down to Covent Garden or Leicester Square, and I turned to this girl who I got the train with, met on the train, and she was like, "Oh, it's tube strike." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Well, I mean, I didn't know London at all, hardly. How the hell do I get? And she goes, "Oh, I'll walk with you if you want to." I had this nice walk down past UCL, down Shaftesbury Avenue, down to anywhere where Carlton TV was. But I was about an hour early, but it was about 90 degrees, and in this awful suit, sweating. I thought, oh my God, I feel awful. So I just popped into the pub first, a pub called the Salisbury, where Michael Caine used to go drink when he was a struggling actor. Quite a famous pub, I think. And had my interview, but I was honest and said, listen, I got here an hour early. I was roasting hot. I've had to walk from Euston. So I popped in for a pint to the pub, because obviously I was like probably reeking of booze. But the interview went really well, and when they asked about strengths and weaknesses and stuff, they asked, what are your weaknesses? And I said, wine, women and song. And by the time I got back to uni, they'd already called my mum to tell me that I'd got the job.
That's awesome.
And that's how. And
so
that's how it started.
Your introduction to the professional world was you being very true to yourself, very honest. Because that's the sort of stupid shit you'd say now. So.
I mean, my mum was horrified, because obviously mum and dad didn't drink anyway, because their religion. I was like, what do you mean you went for a pint first?
You said wine, women and what?
You don't know any women, do you, Andrew? And of course, then they started worrying, well, they've offered him the job, so what kind of company is it? They were like, well, you can say, right, I like wine, women and song. They were, but I do remember, because dad was still getting over the fact that I hadn't gone into medicine, which he was very upset about. Didn't even want to become a chemist, which was like, it was bad enough. But they came to stay one weekend, and I took them into the office, and the security guard let us up, and I was showing them how we analysed television ratings and stuff, and they love Coronation Street, so I showed them how we worked out how many people watch Coronation Street and all this kind of stuff using my computer. And Dad was like, "Oh, yeah, really proud of you, son."
Oh.
And that was. I'm not saying it's the first time he said it, but he had a very, very strict, tough upbringing, so emotions were hard for him. But he actually became quite a huggy person. But yeah, I remember him telling me that, and I was like, oh, because especially when you're a doctor family, you don't become a doctor.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard. But then it ended up being glad I didn't, because it became so bloody full of lawsuits and shit. It was just like, he didn't want that pressure on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how my marketing journey started. It was like, television, working out television ratings, how we can then use those ratings to effectively market our programs to advertisers to come and spend their money in the ad breaks.
Yeah.
And when I was like seeing this money flying about, what people would pay for a 30-second spot in Coronation Street, it's like, holy shit! Well, but then how does that kettle maker know that the 30 grand they've given is going to sell kettles and stuff? So it then started following that journey, which obviously we still come across now. Oh, how can you guarantee that we're going to sell this, and learning about brand awareness, which took me a long time to get my head around. Well, okay, so you might spend this amount of money, but you can't directly attribute that to a sale. But then, my first boss there, a guy called Tony Hopewell Smith, or Tony Hopeless Shit, people used to call him, a bit unfair, but he taught me a lot about marketing. It was him that taught me the worst number in marketing is one, which I refer to probably 5 times a day. But he gave me so many insights about, he'd talk about BMW, McDonald's, these brands that and you spend your money with them, but you don't really know why. It's because they're front of mind, they're in your psyche. Yeah. So when you're hungry or when you want to buy a new car, what are the names you think of?
Yeah, that's really important lesson, isn't it?
What about you? Because obviously your degree was design. Was there always marketing elements to like your course, or was that just something you were interested in? Right, what's this logo I've designed, what is it going to do besides look cool?
So, no, basically. Oh, okay. No. So,
next question.
Our course was very, very design-led, which is why I did it, because I love designing stuff. But it was always designed for purpose. We had really good lecturers who had worked in industry for big brands and knew their shit.
And did you go to lectures properly? You were a student?
I don't think I ever missed a lecture in all of university.
You said that with a straight face. Serious?
Yeah, I don't think I ever missed a lecture. And we did... creative courses are very lecture heavy, so you would do like a 2-hour lecture in the morning and then a full day in the workshop or studio.
So how many hours were you on?
Like 4 days out of 5.
How many sort of total hours over a week? Lectures and stuff?
32-ish.
Holy shit.
Yeah, creative courses are really...
I had between 10 and 4 and didn't make half of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're really,
Like
really...
school then, really?
Yeah, very, very, like, hands-on. You wouldn't always have a lecture with you, but you'd have, like, a technician who would come into the studio with you after, and they'd know all the stuff on the Apple Macs and software.
So I was about to ask a question then about literally about that, because I know obviously you went to university a lot after me.
Yeah.
This is all using computers to...
Yeah, this is all on Apple Mac, yeah.
Right, okay. What year was this?
I went to university, how old am I now? 33, 15 years ago. I was 18. Yeah, 15 years ago, 2005.
Okay, so is these the Apples with the funny big curved back?
Big blue back, yeah.
Oh, bloody
and then the first iMacs started to
Right.
come in, which were like the thicker ones.
Right, okay.
But nobody had MacBooks then. You had a Mac Mini, which was like the little square cube one, and you had to buy your own monitor.
Well, I don't remember.
Yeah.
So there are no laptops at those days?
People had laptops,
Oh, right.
but you didn't. No, if you had a MacBook, you were wedged.
What do students do now, do you reckon, in Thatcher? They all have iPads or MacBook Airs?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. So anyway, it was very, very creative driven, ideas based, but always for purpose. You were always designing for purpose. So how legible is that logo going to be on the top of a skyscraper? Or how spaced is that lettering if it's going to be for a novel? Or
Wow, okay.
Is it-
Stuff that we love now,
yeah,
we talk about.
is it appropriate for you to use white text on a black background in that instance, or are you making it hard for people to read in magazine form or whatever it might be? So very, very practical approach. It was design, not art.
So is that the same in this course at every university, or you just had some really good lectures?
We were lucky.
Because we see design and marketing agencies designing stuff that looks pretty but just doesn't do
No
it.
functionality. Yeah.
Wow.
But in my third year of university, one of the lecturers was called Bill, and I'd say he was in his 60s then, so I'm not sure he's with us anymore. But he had been around the block. He'd worked for big brands, big oil companies, some really cool sports brands, and obviously at the time Umbro and Reebok were northern sports brands, so he really worked with some cool brands. And he took me to one side one day and he said, "Oh, Joel, do you know you're never going to make it as a top class designer?"
Well, was he related to that woman in the supermarket?
And I'm like, "You what?" He's like, your brain's not wired that way. So you're very creative. You can do design. You understand what you're doing, but you'll end up going into the business side of things. He was like, you'll end up wanting to know how to monetize it, how to get people to part with their cash, how to turn it into a tool. He said, I can see that with you. There's people here who will be the best designers in their companies, but that's all they'll ever want to be. He's like, you'll want to jump ship before you get to that stage. And at the time, I didn't really take any notice. I was just sort of like,
Wow. And he was right.
yeah. And
So how the hell did you become an accountant? Do people know that story? So Joel's actually a qualified accountant as well.
sort of. But yeah, so I at university, so a local print and design agency, well, not a big print and design agency, put an advert into our university saying looking for a junior designer, and I applied for that. So the day I finished university, I started my first job.
Blimey.
Which is why I ended up living in Bolton.
Right.
But that wasn't ever going to be enough money to kind of pay the bills. So I also freelanced for agencies in Manchester at the same time, because at the time there were some really cool agencies in Manchester, and it meant I got exposed to really cool projects, but got paid bugger all for it. But that's the nature of the beast. I would still say that to people now. If you want to build your portfolio and really show people what you can do, be prepared to almost work for free. And not because I think that's morally correct, but it's just you've got to show that you're willing to do more than anyone else.
No entitlement there, Joel.
But what happened was, did that for 18 months, moved home because of the incident we talked about before with the police, and my parents separated, and my mum wasn't particularly very well at the time, and I just felt homesick and wanted to come home. Came home, worked as a designer with a company that produced stuff for the conference industry, so laptop bags, all the things that you would put in a laptop bag to give away at massive conferences like World Mobile Congress and stuff. So I ended up going back into to China a bit and learning all about that. So I think working on some mega brands, and then the recession hit and the conference industry just fell on its arse.
Right.
And I didn't lose my job, but I just thought I need to work in a recession-proof industry.
Blimey. Right,
And
okay.
so local accountancy firm were advertising for people who don't come from a maths or accountancy degree background, and applied and got the job and did my,
You are wired differently.
a bit freaky, yeah.
Wow.
So ended up doing the first lot of qualifications you do with that, and passed that with flying colours. And then at that stage in my life is when I had my first big mental health crisis and took a step back.
Wow. I mean, it's hard for me because I literally, I couldn't think of anything worse than working in that kind of industry.
Yeah.
So, what was it that was the challenge then, or that set you
The
off?
straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
I think it was coming. I think
So regardless, it would have come.
I had the traits from 5 years old. I was obviously in my early 20s, which is when most men, it all comes to fruition. They tend to suffer with it. But I would pin it probably on a lack of sleep due to the fact that the firm I was working for would literally send me bloody miles to do audits, and I would be getting up at 5 a.m. to drive off to count something, and then I'd get home at 9 at night, still have to do 4 hours revision for my qualifications, and then repeat. And I remember telling HR at the time, "This is not good for me. This is not good for me," and nothing changed.
So do you think, is this us sounding old again, or do you think that stuff like this still goes on, but to a lesser extent, or no, that people would just get so sued these days for making employees do that, it's just stopped, and thank God for that?
I think it still goes on in pockets.
Because sometimes I'll be telling one of my war stories to the team, and they'll look at me like I'm telling a joke, like about the boss that would like literally cut your tie with a pair of scissors if it wasn't a silk tie, and they're like, "Well, you reporting to HR?" You do. It's like, no, there was none of that. And it's like, the shit went on. I mean, this is a place where you had to put your hand up to go to the toilet or something.
You had to ask, yeah.
Ask.
Yeah, you had to ask.
Wow.
But
wow. Especially about water.
I find it strange, even then. I mean, it's not that long ago. We're talking 10 years ago. They didn't handle it better. I mean, to go from being, of the 7 graduates they took on in my tier, there was one woman of the 7 of us who was a machine, and she literally was 100% in her exams. But then I was the next one. I was like in the 90%ers, like nailing these exams. To go from that to literally on my knees, like begging them to stop sending me driving all over the place, and to ignore it, for me was like archaic. I was, surely you can see something's wrong.
So, did you think about getting another job, or you were like, that would have been a sign of defeat?
I spoke to my family a lot about it. Obviously, my mum, having been through what she'd been through, was like, I don't want to go through this with my son. And she just said, just stop and just take a break and reevaluate what you want to do with your life. You know, you've put some money in the bank. You're not gonna starve. Just stop. So I think I stopped in the June, and by the September,
When you say stopped?
just literally handed in my notice.
Oh, right, okay.
Handed in my notice, said, "This isn't for me." I'd lost my loyalty to the company as well, because I didn't think they were looking after me. So I just said, "It's not for me. I'll stop." And then 3 months later, started my own business on a very, very small scale, because my logic was I could just.
So who stayed at this company then? You can't have been the only one who was being put under this kind of pressure, or I mean, were you being victimised?
I wouldn't say victimised. I'd say I was fragile anyway.
No, but were they making other people do all this driving and stupidness?
Yeah. There was people from North Shropshire having to go south, and people from South Shropshire having to go north.
And they just accepted it. They're still doing it now.
Lack of communications. Just big company. So one audit manager doesn't speak to another audit manager. And so they've got one junior from Oswestry going to Hereford and one junior from Church Stretton going to Crewe.
No, but I mean, the people who are doing this, how are they coping? Why? Or is that, are they happy with choosing that for their career?
I guess if you're not like anxious, so if you're not worried about it, if you're basically in your mind, I'm being paid to drive from Oswestry to Hereford to go and count some cars or count some grain or whatever it might be, what's the issue? Where for me, I was like, well, this is costing the company more money and it's costing me more time. Like there was an injustice about it. And then I get myself wound up and worked up, where a normal person wouldn't. And I think...
Right, okay.
So a normal person would be like, well, yeah, but you probably worked another 5 hours of toil or whatever, so just chill your boots and crack on. Where I was like, well, don't you think it'd be more efficient if we did it? And no manager wants to hear that from the juniors.
Wow.
So then I get myself really wound up. Or like if I was trying to study for my exam, and that was what was getting me, was I didn't understand how I was meant to do long days and then study for my exam. And we have it here with our apprentice. We literally say to her, you need to book time in your working day for study. That's the deal. Like we get a good deal with you, but the return is that we give you our time.
Doing exams after university. Oh God.
So that was that, and then I started up on my own and grew that very slowly to let myself kind of figure out who I was, get myself in a good headspace. I think I met you within 6 months of that, probably.
Was it really? That time at networking?
Yeah, so I was about 25 then, yeah.
Was that a shiny suit?
My grey shiny suit.
Shiny, yes.
And very shiny black shoes.
I probably had a sports jacket on.
I think it was pre-sports jacket.
Was it? Oh, right. What was pre-sports jacket? I wore a suit to INC once. They just all thought I was going to a funeral. That's at INC, Independent Networking Club. That was, a networking club. Still going probably, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, post-lockdown.
Virtually, yeah, they do it virtually now. I think they host it in when it's face-to-face. Little plug.
Oh, of course, they've left the hotel now.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I'm still pretty sure I remember that for that first time, because of the category exclusivity thing, you couldn't join as a designer, so you joined as a photographer.
Because I had a camera.
And I'm pretty sure that was the first time I met you and remembered you. Then we just started doing some work together.
Oh yeah, I met the secretary of the club at the time. Knew I needed to join a networking club. I had no idea how to grow a business at that point. And digital advertising wasn't available like it is now. And she's like, "Oh, we haven't got space for a designer or a web designer." And I was like, "Well, I've got a camera."
You're pretty cool, the camera though.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed last week when I saw that amazing, I think, Instagram post, like a shot of one of these mics and your little mixing desk thing. And I put it on Workplace saying, "God, which of you guys took this photo? It's amazing." And then it was you.
Do you know what really hurt about that?
What?
Was that you were disappointed. It's like, I'm a valuable member of the team.
I just wish, oh my God, like, has Emily taken that or Evie? Or
with my phone as well. Boom.
Wow. No, it is a skill. It's a hard skill, hard industry though, because I do see a lot of good, not that I'm a photographer, I do see a lot of amazing photos, and it's like, oh yeah, my 13-year-old took that with her Samsung. It's like,
yeah,
oh, right, shit.
You've got to have some self-confidence to be a decent photographer, and a good photography. But when you see good photography, you can really tell. But there's a lot of mediocre photography out there.
It seems to be one of those industries where, excuse me, business has gone pear-shaped, or it's a lockdown, I can't trade. I'll set up a Facebook page and for some of my photos and start doing some freelance photography. And it must be annoying where you've worked really hard for your craft. Excuse me. And you see businesses like that spring up. But to be honest, I suppose we have it in marketing, don't we? You don't need any qualifications to be a marketer. I've got loads of friends on Instagram. I've got loads of followers. I'll be a social media consultant. And it's like, did you see the testimonial that came in yesterday from a client?
Yeah, that was lovely.
And this testimonial, I think one of the team is branding it up, says about there's social media and talks about how we helped her during lockdown and was so grateful, and she said you rock and stuff like that. And it was it was probably the nicest testimony we've had. But yeah, it just reinforced the point that just because someone's got 1 million social media followers, that doesn't mean they can represent, protect, and promote your brand professionally.
It should go on the wall, that one.
Yeah.
I think, you know,
Like
we've had
our
a
Iron
few.
Man poster.
We've had a few. I was just about to say, we've had a few days this week that have been a bit testing, but sometimes it wouldn't hurt us to turn and be able to read something like that, I think.
I've tasked one of them, I can't remember who, to get provide some ideas for sort of good stuff to go on the walls. So I will chase her up about that.
So when I met you at INC, to get us back on the story trail, it's a bloody long podcast.
How long are we in?
Hour and 15.
Oh my God, is anyone still listening or watching? Hope so.
Testing 1, 2, 3. When I met you,
Don't say the camera's
you
still on,
were
isn't it?
just on the verge of setting up. That's a very bloody good point.
The camera still is on. The lens isn't sticking out like it used to.
Oh.
Well, we've got to carry on because there's an audio file at least we'll be able to use.
We look professional now. So when I met you, you were just on the verge of setting up your own marketing agency.
Was that when it was?
Yeah, you hadn't quite set it up yet. You'd had the logo designed, I think. You got the website on the way, and then you needed stationery. And that's how it all began.
It was really strange back in those days. So obviously the business I was running, my wife and I still run now, and launching our own marketing agency, is that some of the stuff I was learning back then, I've forgotten about, and I'm relearning it now. And like me and you, we'll talk about stuff and like, oh my God, you know, we used to do that sort of 10 years ago. Why did we stop? I used to have like funnels, autoresponders. Why the hell did I stop? And it's mad. I think sometimes when you talk about networking or going to expos or seminars or courses online, however you want to learn, sometimes it's not always about learning new stuff, because that's what people want to push, new stuff, new.
Yeah.
Sometimes the old stuff is really good. Like me and you, really. The old stuff's really good, but you just need reminding of it. Just think, oh yeah, forgotten about that.
Yeah.
That's a good little tip.
And I think what we've got really smart at now is combining all the various techniques into a single powerful tool to generate direct response, really. But
I think, yeah, the Codebreak difference, the process and systems we've used, we've devised a unique system to share with clients to benefit them.
Yeah.
It's with all the shit going on in the world, it's hugely exciting. But I don't think we'd have reached that point without each other, but without the right mindset.
Resilience is a huge thing for both of us. There's
Stubbornness, I think.
Shit we've
is that the same
together.
thing? What's the difference in stubbornness and resilience?
There's a fine line, isn't it? But there's shit we've done that I think some people would have got fed up of doing halfway through.
One of my daughters is a lot more stubborn than the other, and I think she's probably got a chance of doing better stuff with her life because of that. I think a streak of stubbornness, too much stubbornness, not too much of anything's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, but a little bit of stubbornness
Oh,
goes a long way.
if I'm having a strop at home, it's not a good quality that I'm basically, nope, I'm definitely not happy about this. I'm going to continue to not be happy about it.
I was laughing and talking to Emma the other day when you came home and you were starving. And obviously you can't, like, if Emma's made me like sprouts for tea, I can't criticise because obviously Emma's made them, not me, so I should just be grateful. But you'd come home, you were very hangry, you'd worked out, and what did you have, like bean sprout salad or something?
Pomegranate salad, yeah.
That's probably a strop, wasn't it? Or was that a strop behind closed doors?
Well,
thanks, Hannah, that's delicious. Then you go off and...
There's a new method now that there's always cooked chicken in the fridge. So it doesn't matter what meal's been prepared. If it's not bulky enough, I can just put some chicken on my plate.
Emma's mum has got this friend that she's had for years. They used to be pen pals as kids, and she emigrated to Australia and had a daughter that she named after my mother-in-law. And this daughter, Jane, came over to London to work for a year, and so she basically shared a flat with myself and Emma, and she was a vegetarian. We'd go to the fridge in the morning. Where's the chicken? Where's the bacon? And basically she'd just go out getting pissed and like come back, make herself the world's worst vegetarian. So it's like the opposite of what you have now. We go into the fridge looking for the chicken. Bloody God. Not chicken now.
That must be a vegetarian trait. My brother was vegetarian for a long time, and on a night out he would just deliberately bite somebody's kebab or something.
Is he not now?
No.
What happened there then? Because he's now, that's a man that I imagine when he's committed to something, Take a lot to shift him.
Yeah, got a girlfriend though, didn't he?
So you can't be veggie if your partner is. That must be really difficult.
Yeah, I think he was for a while, and then I think once they moved in together,
That must be like a teetotaler marrying someone who likes a drink. Things like that must be like me and Emma both. We're about, I don't know, 90% plant based. If Emma was a massive carnivore, there's just no
Waste of
way,
time.
no way
Yeah.
I could be plant based.
Yeah.
Beyond Burger tonight.
Oh, really? We've got some in the freezer. Got some in the freezer.
Have you tried one yet?
No.
It's amazing. I mean, I was reading. I was listening to a podcast, and it was saying about look at things like the Beyond Burgers because of the salt content. Look at them like a red meat treat. So don't have them all the time. But if you have it once a week, once a fortnight, that is our treat now. A Beyond Burger, just absolutely delicious. But I've built it up so much, and I'm worried you won't like it.
Well, we'll find out soon.
Okay.
What do you have it with?
I have it. So when we were feeling really naughty, and this sounds so sad now, we'd have it in a brioche bun, but obviously we don't now. Just have it in a bun. But I have vegan mayonnaise and barbecue sauce and crispy onions.
But in a bun.
In a bun with some asparagus on the side. If the camera isn't working, Joel's pulling a really funny face now. We're rock and roll.
With some asparagus on the side.
I might moonwalk into the lounge with them.
I was going to say, yeah. So the story
And
is...
a bottle of whiskey.
In some ways, we've got a lot of experience and progressed a lot. But then when you look at the sum of all things, you're having a burger with asparagus instead of chips.
A plant-based burger with asparagus.